y'all.
It's Nisha's network, yeah, yeah. It's all about connecting, yeah, let's go. It's Nisha's network, yeah, yeah. It's all about connecting, yeah, let's go.
Connect and feel the vibe. Connections make you feel alive. We do this every day. Let's put your business on display. Network, let's heal and pray. It's our love, we here to stay. Trust in God, He'll lead the way. We on right now, no need to wait. Let's go. It's Nisha's network, yeah. It's all about connecting, yeah. Let's go.
Happy Wednesday, everyone. Happy Wednesday. We are here celebrating the month of March still with women in history, with powerful women that I believe you should know. And today I am privileged to be joined by none other than a beautiful new friend of mine, but we have been working in the spaces of recovery, and that's none other than Mrs. Paula Ekstrom. Hey, Paula.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
You're
And
quite
I just want to briefly share just a little bit before me and Paula have a conversation that it is a gift to be able to celebrate people that walk through recovery, but specifically the mommies of the world, the women of the world, the women in history. Just recognizing the contributions that you are providing by sharing your story and sharing your journey. And so this month, I just wanted to highlight women who have overcome some amazing challenges and have begun to, it's really historical, right? Because we have a legacy that has to carry on. And hopefully and hopefully, and it has been proven that by sharing your transparent moments that people can hear, they can listen, they can know that they can have a victorious moment as well, and that they can know that they can overcome. So, because Paula and I both work in the recovery space through whether it be mental health, substance use disorder, unemployment, unhoused people, um, we work in the same recovery spaces. I thought it was necessary to just grab a hold of some amazing women who are doing powerful, amazing things throughout not only their community, but be even beyond their community. So, Paula, I'm going to kick it off by just asking you to introduce yourself to whoever watches this. You all can go to our YouTube channel, Nisha's Network, or you can go to our HLM Recovery 180 page, or you can go to the Wilmington Coalition page. But you can watch wherever you are through those spaces and those places. But Paula, go ahead and introduce yourself to whoever's listening today.
So my name is Paula Ekstrom. I am the oldest of three kids. I have four children. I have seven grandchildren. My That's just mind-boggling to me all on its own. That I have my oldest. So some days I'm doing good just to remember my age. I kind of got to do the math. So my oldest grandson just had his 24th birthday, and my youngest granddaughter is 8. So I have a quite the span. I am married to a very patient man named Danny, and we have been married for almost 30 years. That all on its own feels like an accomplishment to me. Um, so my kids are all over. I have one in Tennessee. I have one up in Wisconsin. I have one in Bourbonnais, and my youngest still lives with me. They will be mad at me if I tell you their ages, but they are pretty far apart. They're like 8 to 9 years apart. So it was almost like I felt every time it was getting to the point that I was going to get some independence from children a little bit, bam, I'd just have another one. So I would start all over again. So,
Well, you know what? I look at that way. First of all, we know children are a blessing, but I also looked at it as God's way of slowing us down to give us a new breath to say, "Hey, you have to care for yourself and someone else." So
Yep.
that was always my take on it. Oh, another surprise. Okay, well, I guess that's my way to slow down,
Yeah.
reevaluate, and realize I need to take some breaths. So anyway, I want to go ahead and just kick off some questions for you in regards to, first of all, we'll kick it off before you share your story um, about your role that you play within the community as a program director of the Wilmington Coalition. Tell us a little bit about the Wilmington Coalition, what it provides, what area that is in, because we have people that are watching that are not just in the Chicagoland area, and just give a little history about the Wilmington Coalition for a Healthier Community.
So Wilmington is a small community of 5,900 people in southern Will County. We are south of 80, which people in Will County look at anything south of 80 as another country. Um,
Well,
the
let's
pop-
say Will County, Illinois, because it's
yes,
Will
this
County,
Illinois.
Illinois.
Yes, this is Illinois. In Will County, I believe we're the fourth most populous county in Illinois. And three-quarters of, well, the majority of our population lives in the upper three-quarters of the county. And then south of 80, we are the isolated communities. We don't have public transportation. We don't really have services. We absolutely do not have any recovery. We're begging for counselors. There are two of communities, Braidwood and us, are relatively close together, and they have the same problem that we do. So the more isolated farm, we're known as a farm community. We service the Wilmington School District, which is the largest per square mileage district in the county, although it is probably the smallest populated school district. So we only do our communities within the school district borders. So we actually have grants for mental health awareness and substance misuse prevention education. Although we understand that no one leg can stand on its own. Recovery, prevention, we all must work together if we want to do better. A little over 18 years ago, we had someone come into our community education services network. They had grants to go around looking for readiness in different communities to start coalitions. We had several deaths, substance misuse related deaths in our community. So they came and they did a town hall and it was packed. And
Wow.
I was at that town hall since I knew it was packed. So then they were like, holy cow, these people are ready. So they had a new next one next month, the following month. And that one wasn't as well attended. I was also at that one, and you see, this says sucker up here. You might not be able to see it, but and they had me. I had been going through some personal things with my daughter, who was struggling to stay away from substances. She was a vibrant young middle or a high schooler, and I realized right at this point that as a mother, I needed to do whatever I could do to not only keep my daughter safe, but to keep the other children of this community safe. And so here we are, over 18 years later.
18 years. That's a long time.
I started as the treasurer, and then our president moved, and somehow I got moved up into that. And I was there for 16 years. Well, then probably more like 14 years. And then just in the last couple of years, I actually got moved into the program director. So I gave up most of my day job and came here to work. So now
Wow.
here I am.
Wow. So thank you for sharing a little backstory about Wilmington Coalition. I really appreciate that because sometimes people just don't know what's going on within the community that's your neighboring community, right? People just take it for granted that people have resources everywhere, and that's not the case. And we know, well, I trust God, He's going to provide for Wilmington as well as Braidwood, and those are the areas that we're working to believe that some miracles are going to happen.
Yeah.
But it's going to take people. But you know, sometimes people have to be driven by their own testimony. So I wanted you to just give us a little history about your own recovery space, and how you what's your passion, not just your daughter. I heard you mention your daughter, but also just your own personal lived experience. How has that impacted your life to work in this recovery space?
Well, so I first-handedly understand how important recovery is. I understand how important self-help groups are. I understand how important it is for everything to work together. Back in 1988, I was in active. I know you're not supposed to call it addiction anymore, but at that time, that's how I knew it. I was in active addiction. Um, I was married to my supplier. And I was getting more and more frustrated with, well, he was a tad bit abusive too. And I was getting more and more frustrated with hearing, oh, it's just the drugs that are making you feel this way. And I'm like, I have reached the point in my life where I can't even trust my feelings.
Mm,
And and that I don't even know if this is really me that is feeling these things, or if it is the drug addict feeling this way. And it's like, I need to do something.
yeah.
So I called my ex-husband and said, I need to make some changes in my life, and I need you to come get our son for a couple of weeks. And when he came to get Jason, he stood up to me, and he was not a confrontational man, but he stood up to me and said, Paula, I have decided that I am going to take you to court, and I'm going to get custody of our son. And I looked at him and I said, you know what? If you can just give me a month, if you can give me a month, and if I cannot get it together in that month, you will not have to take me to court. I will just let you take Jason. And I said, because he deserves better.
Mm, mm,
And at that point, I left. I didn't have a job. I didn't have anywhere to live. I didn't have anything except the clothes that I had. Shortly after I left, my husband threw all my clothes and my kids and Jason's clothes out onto the front porch in the yard. And so I managed to bag up our clothes. I stayed with a friend for a little bit, but then when Jason came back home, we had to go stay in a women's shelter because, we were the popular disturbance on the street. My neighbors had called the police on us several times, so at least I was able to go stay in a shelter. And so I took all our bags of clothes with me to the shelter. I didn't have a car. Um, every once in a while, my husband would let me borrow the car, but then one of his people recognized where the car was at, so then he would come and move it. So the shelter people wouldn't let me out after dark because they were afraid for my safety.
wow.
I started going to NA meetings. I ran into a friend who was going to NA meetings who got me started. And I did 90 meetings in 90 days. And then I flipped around and did 90 meetings in another 90 days.
Wow.
I didn't care. I didn't care if it was NA, if it was AA. I didn't care. All I knew was I needed to be a recovery person.
Wow.
And if I needed a meeting, I needed a meeting. And I tried to learn as much. I love to cook. So I was big in, we would host dances and then we would do dinners before the dances. And it was my way of just trying to do everything I could to change my life.
Can I ask you a question, Paula? Because I know that a lot of, you said 90 meetings in 90 days, and then another 90 meetings in another 90 days. And I know that a lot of people feel like 30, what is it? 30 days is how they're celebrating the 30 days. And I understand that. But do you agree that it takes more than a 30 day?
Oh, it absolutely does.
And
It
so
takes
how
more.
would you articulate that in terms of saying, hey, I'm celebrating your 30 days, but you have to stay connected, because that's a lot. That's dedication.
Yeah, well, my dad always said I was stubborn. Um, but it didn't take 30 days for me to get to that point. So it wasn't going to take 30 days for it to be fixed.
That's so good.
It took me years to get there. So I actually stayed very tuned into the Recovery Network for probably 6 or 7 years. I didn't go to as many meetings. I started working on other parts of me. Like I started going back to church. I'm the daughter of a Nazarene minister. So
Wow.
I started going back to church, and I started going to Bible studies, and I started getting involved in my kids' school. I started getting involved in healthy things, but I still kept that one foot in the door, because there are times in your life where it's so easy to slide back into that. I call it stinking thinking. It is so easy to slide back into that stinking thinking. And at that point, when you feel yourself going there, and you have to be honest with yourself, but when you feel yourself going there, the best place to go is a meeting. And it's really great when you go there and you know other people, because sometimes you need other people to learn from you, but you need to be reminded of where those younger recovering people, I don't necessarily mean age, I mean people that are new to recovery, you need to be reminded of what that life was like. Because sometimes you get in your mind this glorified, it's a way that you're dealing with the stupid things that you did when you were using. And your brain tends to glorify it a little bit. And sometimes you need to be reminded that there wasn't anything glorified about it. And so by going back to a meeting, maybe I only needed to go to a meeting once a month. I can tell you in particular, I had, it was about 7 years after I had been clean. And at that point, I was clean and sober. I had worked very hard to make my life better. I had a good job, but I was going through a very rough patch. And I'm not going to say I made great decisions all through that time, but I made a lot better decisions. And I wasn't using, and I wasn't drinking, and I was still in recovery. I was still working on the person that Paula needs to be. And I was struggling, and it was New Year's Eve, and I was too scared to go out somewhere because I was afraid that I would be tempted to do something because I was struggling. And I ended up going to the Al-Anon Club in Kankakee to their New Year's dance, because I knew that's where I needed to be. I needed to be around recovering people. And so again, it's not someplace where you got overnight. It isn't going to get fixed overnight.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of different aspects to recovery, but the first thing is learning to be honest with yourself and learning to be honest with other people. And as I learned in recovery, just because you're there for recovery and to be a better person, that doesn't mean everybody there is there for that reason. And unfortunately, my son, I trusted people that I shouldn't have trusted. And he went through some things in his life that I really wish that he didn't have to.
Mm.
But it's just, you just got to keep doing the right thing. And it's changing your lifestyle, because it becomes, using was so encompassed in my life that I had to change friends. I couldn't go around any of those old people that I knew.
Yeah. Yeah.
The only people that I knew were people that weren't doing any better than I was. So why would I need to be around them? And that is one problem that we have here in Wilmington, is because we're such a small community and we're an isolated community, that we don't really have a very big recovery community. And so
let me ask you a question with just what you're saying, not having a very, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but for sake of time, I just want to ask, for not having a big recovery community, okay? But you're speaking to recovery. Do you feel like there is, because of the stigma that comes along with people that use, I'm gonna just say use drugs, are users, or alcohol, or walking through mental health journeys, do you feel like that people are closed-minded because that's not something you want to own? Or do you feel like the resources are just not there because people are not deeming it necessary? You know what I'm saying? Or is it that both? And I don't know, because that seems to be a big problem. And I think that people have, like, there's a misconception that that's just this small community, or that's the low end of Chicago, Illinois, or a certain part of Chicago, or whatever. And I've experienced it working as a director to try to and help endorse and champion for places like Wilmington Coalition, that people look like, no, that's not us. That's not in our backyard.
Yeah, that is the thing that we do. We ignore problems, because if we don't actually see them, then that means that it's not true. So we just ignore them, and that's not something that you, just because you ignore them doesn't mean that they're not there. And that's a big thing with people that are struggling to get clean, is they need to be around other people that are staying clean, and they need to not, oh, I've known this person my whole life. Well, yeah, but they weren't a good person for you to hang around with. Why would you still want to hang around? Because that's what we know. That's what we know, and that's what we're comfortable with. And recovering is not necessarily a comfortable process. Discovering about yourself and why you react to things the way you do, it's not a comfortable process. And if you don't have recovery, self-help groups, you don't have counselors, you don't have the people around you to help you. I mean, what in Kankakee, it was a good thing I was in Kankakee, because what if I would have been trying to do this in Wilmington? I probably wouldn't have been successful back then, because you didn't have any counseling. We don't have I didn't have a car. So if I don't have a car, how am I supposed to get to all of these different things if it's not in our town?
So it has not progressed. It has not progressed in terms of transportation. And are you speaking to that, to transportation for those who need recovery spaces, or just transportation in general, right?
Well, transportation in general, but not having transportation to get to your recovery to try to be a better person, to not, we have one place here in town that that accepts state insurance, and they have a 6-month waiting time. So sometimes it might be a little less because people process through faster. Sometimes they process through slower. But if you're trying to get better, you don't have 6 months to wait.
No.
You could be dead in 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's our option.
Wow.
And if you're a person like me, I didn't have a job, I didn't have a place to live, I didn't have a car, then how are you supposed to get better? Unless you can rely on people. But
Yeah.
most of the time, I mean, I had encompassed when it was time for me to be recovered, I had encompassed myself in drug addicts just as much as me. So why are they going to rely on, how can I rely on them? Because all I would do is make them feel like they were troubled. So they didn't want
Yeah.
to be around me either. They wanted to suck me back into it. And I know that because I was that person at one point in my life.
Wow. Wow. Well,
So
I just want to just say that thank you for the work you're doing, number one. Number two, thank you for the awareness, and if you're watching this and you are anywhere in the spaces of providing counseling or recovery spaces, that you're willing to, I even say volunteer your time to join forces with counties and communities that you just oblivious to, right? Because I can say before I worked in this space, it was oblivious to just what's in my habit trail. But we have to be intentional that there are communities that need help and resources. They need financial resources. And so if you want to do something to provide help, wilmington-coalition.org, you can reach out to Paula. Wilmington coalition.org, that's going across the screen. But also, if you need help and recovery resources, the Will Grundy Ross, HL Heart Life, if many of you all know us as Heart Life and Wilmington Coalition have partnered. We are in partnership to say, hey, what is needed in this community? How can we get these resources here? And I even think sometimes it starts with something small where a therapist may say, hey, I'll host a meeting once a month. If it's in town or in person or virtual, I will help provide some transportation gift cards. I will give $20,000 to the Wilmington Coalition to get,
okay.
let me just speak real,
Okay.
let me get a little further, right? And I say that to say that it is in our backyard because if you are a person, although you may never have experienced or experienced living like I'm a lived experience. I've never engaged in substance use. However, I grew up around family members that did, right? It is imperative for you to not think that you're oblivious, that you're exempt, right? Because it could be your child, it could be your grandchild, it could be your sister, your brother, your mother, your father. Okay, it could be you.
Yep.
But for God's grace and mercy, let me just say,
Right.
God's grace and mercy that I am not consumed. So Paula, I want to say thank you for the work you're doing. But what are some last words you could just leave people with in the last 2 minutes that we have to say, hey, this is what is needed. This is what we will continue to do. And we need help. We need to join forces, right?
Right. So the one big thing, if I could say, activities. If you are having sober, clean activities, make sure you reach out to your groups that are your recovery groups. Make sure that and welcome them, because those people need things to do with their time. We had a place that we all gathered after meetings and talked and got to know each other. And I cannot stress to you how important that was. We had one person's home that we would go to a couple times a week and watch movies and have popcorn. None of us had any money, so it had to be something that was cheap. We got together on Sundays and played softball. So if you want to help and you don't have money, but you have time, then host activities for them to do with their time. And don't forget prevention and treatment. We got to work together, because if we can stop it in the beginning,
Yes.
that would be great. Just think that. I know it's a pie in the sky, but so we all have to work together,
Yes.
and none of us are islands. Just like a recovering person cannot feel like they're an island either.
Yes, I love that you said that prevention and treatment have to work together. And it was so good to come to the meeting. You have school districts there, superintendents, you have pastors. Shout out to Pastor Harriet. You have people that are joining forces to say, hey, let's get something moving. So I'm looking forward to the growth and expansion for 2025 for the Wilmington Coalition and for the Wilmington area and the West Will County area to really kind of get some support. East too. Let me just say that.
Yeah,
If you all
East needs it too.
East
They
needs
got
it,
a spot that's south of 82 over there.
yes, absolutely. So again, if you want to get in touch with Paula, please to hear more about her story, her journey, or to provide, they have a great office down in Wilmington Coalition to be able to, in Wilmington, so that you can get resources and gather resources, but also help provide resources and be that source to help people through recovery. Again, it's March. We are selling women in history through recovery. And this is a gift. So Paula, thank you so much for today. I really, really appreciate you being here today and really just sharing your journey. What a blessing to hear. Thank you for all you do. Hang tight. We'll
Thank
see you guys in about another 30 minutes with Dr. Karen White with the Teach Foundation, who's doing some amazing things in the Chicagoland area. All right. So we'll talk to you soon. Stay tight. Hang tight, Paula.
Yeah, connect and vibe.